chamomile.
Hey guys, it's Saturday night. It's not Sunday night. So I'm Dani Williamson and this is Dr. Sultan here. And we are talking tonight hormones, natural ways to get through perimenopause and menopause, and just all the ways to get through it naturally and without losing your mind and pulling your hair out, right?
Right.
I'm so excited, guys. As soon as you get on, hit your like buttons, hit your heart buttons, tell us where you're from, and then post your questions up there, and we'll get through them tonight. And we're going to have a whirlwind roller coaster of 45 minutes or so of learning from Dr. Sultan. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Now, this is interesting. She grew up in India, so she combines the best of both worlds, Eastern and Western medicine, which I think is exactly how it should be. She trained in internal medicine in London. She's board certified in family medicine and functional medicine. She's passionate about helping women balance their hormones, and she believes that all women can live with vitality and vibrancy. She's an international speaker. She's an author of 2 books coming out. One is Stress Less, and the other one I don't know the name of.
Yeah, it's from Survive to Thrive, my story about my health.
Oh, fantastic. She too struggled with irritable bowel syndrome like me for lots and lots of years. She's the founder of Vitality Wellness Center in Birmingham, Alabama. She has 3 kids. She loves to travel and she loves to garden, and her patients adore her. I know, because I've heard from several of her patients who saw she was going to be on here tonight, and they were thrilled to death that you were going to be on here. So guys, let's welcome Dr. Sultan on tonight, and we're going to get started. I'm going to start with a few little statistics first. And while people are logging on, do you know that it is estimated that in the year 1998, there were 477 million post-menopausal women in the world? 477. That number is expected to more than double to a projected 1.1 billion post-menopausal women in the world by the year 2025, which is 4 years away, less than 4 years away. We're going to have 1.1 post-menopausal women here. There was a Mayo Clinic study in 2018, and it showed that 5,000 women that were surveyed, many are having vasomotor symptoms, hot flashes, night flashes, hot sweats, day sweats in their 60s to 80s. They're still suffering. Yes. Women older than 60 who reported moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms, which are hot flashes, were more likely to be married and in a committed relationship, and less likely to report their health as excellent. Isn't that something?
That is just staggering. And the thing is, it is so needless. Women need not suffer through this whole period of perimenopause and menopause. And I do believe there are seasons in everyone's lives, especially in women. It is very significant, very dramatic, and very visible. Whether you go through puberty, whether you're in your childbearing years, and then through perimenopause can span anywhere from 35 to 55. And then, of course, menopause and postmenopause. And through each and every stage, our hormones can go crazy.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that rocky road. It can be a smooth sailing. And that's what I'm here to tell you about.
I can't wait. Tell us about it. Tell us how you approach perimenopause and menopause, and just women in general. You know, give us a little bit about your story and how you approach it. And you have 5 pillars of health that you work with. So let's just dig right in, and I'm going to look through some of these comments, and you just tell us how we get started here when a woman comes to you.
So first of all, knowing you, because each one of you is a unique individual. No two one of you on this live call are identical. And that's why we have to get away from this one size fits all approach. And that's why your history matters, your genes matter, your
Yes.
environment, your stressors, your immune system, which all 80% of it is located in the lining of your gut. All that makes you you. And so I really, first of all, like to take a deeper dive into what went on before this. How were you born? Were you born vaginally or by C-section? Were you breastfed or bottle fed? So each and every point in your life determines things like your microbiome. And you
Yes.
know how important the bacteria that live within us, there are more genes that they possess than our own cells in our own body. And with time, when we take antibiotics and birth control pills,
And menopause a lot.
and ends like Advils and Motrins when you have PMS symptoms, each of these drugs or PPIs, which is these antacids, they can impact the bacteria. And did you know that it impacts your hormones? And so women, when, because I've suffered with IBS too, when they don't go to the bathroom every day or they have diarrhea, bloating, these are not normal. And we are told, oh, it's okay, just take either a Lomotil or take some thing to make you go, like Metamucil. But that's not the key. That's not the answer. We have
Right.
to eat foods that nourish not only our body and our gut, but that even helps your hormones. Now, how is that? So the hormones are excreted through this intricate relationship between your liver, your gallbladder, your gut, as well as your microbiome. So when you don't go every day, you're actually recirculating these hormones. It's a term known as enterohepatic circulation, and you actually increase your future risk of breast cancer, colon cancer, when your gut isn't functioning normally. So one of the foundations of the house, I say, is your gut and nutrition. The pillars are your hormones, and the roof is your brain. So we're going to talk about all of these things that make you a whole person and how we can connect all these dots together. So apart from taking a deep dive into your history, your genetics, so if you have a family history of breast cancer or endometriosis, or if your mom or aunt or grandmom or sister have also had similar periods, it is highly likely that you have similar periods. So there are certain genes that determine how you handle the hormones in your body. And these can then lead to symptoms of heavier cycles or irregular cycles or the PMS symptoms associated with cycles, and then even the age you go through menopause. However, your genes do not have to be your destiny. So
You
there
bet.
are things we can do to overcome these genetic roadblocks. And that's why knowledge is power, but I also believe testing is powerful, because when you don't test, you're guessing and shooting in the dark. And most women I see are told, oh, this is normal. Oh, your labs are normal. Oh, this is just the way it's going to be. Oh, it's part of aging. But it doesn't have to be that way. And it's not normal. And so when you look at your labs, you really got to look at your inflammatory markers, all of the hormones. Like Dani checks your thyroid in detail. So you have to look at your stress hormone, your thyroid hormone, your insulin, because those ups and downs can actually cause things like fibroids and endometriosis. This picture of something known as estrogen dominance, which you just had a speaker talk about estrogen and estrogen dominance. So all of these things can be measured, and they are exact numbers. I love data. I love to take a deeper dive into the labs so we know exactly what's going on. And a lot of times, what I find is that you have high levels or relatively high levels of estrogen and really rock bottom levels of progesterone.
You
And this is
bet.
very, very common, and it can be easily balanced out, and then you don't have to suffer. Even teenagers can get it. People in their 20s, 30s, 40s, even up to 50s and 60s can have relative estrogen dominance. So this
Yes.
is a very, very common problem that I see. The other thing is that we have other wonderful hormones other than the ovarian hormones that also play a role, that come from the adrenals. And they determine things like energy, sex drive, your motivation, your inflammation. Like DHEA is an anti-aging hormone, and
Yes.
when we are stressed, it goes rock bottom.
You
And so
bet.
we have to measure it, and that's a natural way that you can even improve testosterone, which is to do with sex drive and just that zest for life, and getting better results from your workout, and developing lean muscle mass instead of accumulating body fat, especially in that middle area, which is so
Yeah.
frustrating. And women, we make 1/10 the amount of testosterone men do, but we need it and we make it. But there are natural ways that we can improve testosterone: when we sleep better, when we exercise better, when we eat clean. And so we'll talk about that. And so history, labs, and then let me come to these 5 pillars of health. So, what are these 5 pillars? They're like pieces of a puzzle that have to fall together in order to balance everything out. So, the first pillar of health is nutrition. And food, is medicine. And foods can hurt us, but they can heal us. And sometimes you may eat what your friend is eating and not feel as great as she does. That's because your immune system may not like those same foods. And these aren't true allergies, but these are intolerances or sensitivities that have developed. And so it doesn't mean you can never ever eat these foods, but you can maybe take a mini break from these foods. And then when you add them back, then you know exactly what's going on. And you've heard of things like the Daniel fast or the clean 30 and things like that. So those are easy ways to determine which foods may be problematic. So nutrition, what should you eat? Food that comes from nature is awesome. The less processed it is, the less genetically modified it is, the better it is. And you don't have to be keto, vegan, paleo, any of those, but just eat a balanced diet. And when you eat meats, you can totally eat them. Make sure they were treated humanely too, because we are what we eat. And so nutrition is so important. And sometimes we think we're eating healthy and it may not be the right. So again, individualizing it for you. It doesn't have to be extreme, because life is for living and you should enjoy life. But there are things that I believe in, again, seasons. So eat local, eat fresh, support your local economy. That's the best thing you can do, and you will not go wrong. The next pillar is gut health and detox. So we are just living in the soup of toxins. Our great grandmother ate from the farm. They got food and milk and water and everything. But now everything is just toxic and contaminated. And so it's an act of kindness to yourself to allow your body's some time for some extra tender loving care. And I think we should all do some sort of a detox. And by that, I don't mean go to some spa and just buy some fancy detox, but really a cellular level detox, because I'm sure you've heard the term leaky gut, where your cells, instead of being tight junctions, over the course of time can become loose and leaky. And again, very, very common triggers can be stress, infections, antibiotics, surgeries. All of these things can disrupt the normal flora, fauna, and the tightness of the gut junctions. So detox is about supporting the gut, the liver, the kidney, all your organs of detox. Your skin is one of the biggest organs of detox. So I do recommend wearing makeup and skincare and hair care and deodorants and cleaning agents that are non-toxic. And of course, you cannot change your entire world in one day, but when it's time to buy a new one, read those labels. I love the website ewg.org, where you can scan everything and know how clean it is. So simple things like vinegar and baking soda are great to clean your home with. You don't need those harsh chemicals, and they are kinder to your skin, your pets, your kids, all of that. And so the third pillar of health is, of course, balancing hormones. And we talked about estrogen, there's progesterone, there's testosterone, there's DHEA, pregnenolone, cortisol, insulin, thyroid. But even these neurotransmitters are made in your gut. Did you know that 200 times more melatonin is made in the gut than in the brain? But you need those hormones to support those neurotransmitters, like your natural Xanax, your natural Adderall, your natural, Xanax. They all come from the gut, and then they go in the brain, where they need that support of the hormones. So, of course, in perimenopause and menopause, you lose that support of the hormones. If the gut isn't working, you know that the brain isn't working. So that's the fourth pillar, is the brain gut connection, the mind body balance. And so there are, stress is the biggest spanner in the works, the biggest elephant in the room. So if we don't address sleep and stress, then we cannot balance our hormones, even if you take all those wonderful bioidentical hormones. So those are some key simple things that we need to balance first before we even think of adding in hormones, even the clean kind, like the natural bioidentical ones. And then movement and exercise. You don't need to go to a gym and work out for 2 hours. There are many things you can do at home, in nature. Whatever you love doing is the best way to do it. So those are my 5 pillars of health, and then connecting all those dots together for you. And we can take a deeper dive, but let me answer some questions.
Yes. Okay, so Bambi says, this has been the most difficult thing to educate my psychiatric clients about, your 5 pillars, and the sleep and the gut-brain connection. I mean, the fact that the melatonin is in the gut, but serotonin is in the gut more so than the brain. And when the gut's inflamed, the brain's inflamed. That gut-brain connection, 100% connected. I watch it every day in the office, and I'm sure Bambi does, and you do. When you heal the gut, you begin to heal the brain. The symptoms of anxiety go down, the depression goes down, the ADD gets better, the ADHD gets better, the bipolar schizophrenia, things start to level out. It's fascinating. Fascinating.
Yes.
Oh, yes, Debbie, this is correct right here. And the gut must have plants for health. Yes, you have to seed that gut well.
I say you have to grow the Amazon rainforest, the flora and fauna in your gut, and then give it the food it needs. Then you don't even need a probiotic, right?
That's right. So Christina says, if you could choose one supplement to help through this season of life, what would you recommend? Woo, that's okay. What are you going to say? I'm going to write down what I would say.
So I have, I would say there are two of my favorite. So the first one is chasteberry. Why? Because it is very similar in nature to progesterone, and it has absolutely no side effects. And you can give it to anyone at any age, like young girls with PMS, but it's great to help to just calm down that inflammation, in whether it's in the uterine lining or whether it's the mood, with again that brain gut connection, and to help you sleep at night. And then the second one really helps, again, the stress levels. I love L-theanine. So theanine comes from green tea without the caffeine, and it's just calming to the brain. But a lot of women at this age, they may have sleep difficulties, both falling asleep or staying asleep. So progesterone typically helps you fall asleep. What helps you stay asleep is if your cortisol is not rearing its ugly head in the middle of the night, and then that brain chatter that's going on. So theanine really calms it down, and you're not going to wake up groggy the next morning. So I love those two.
Yeah, I love L-theanine. I probably don't use it as much as I should. I have it in the office, and I used to use it a lot. Chasteberry is one of my all-time favorites. And it's one of those things. So ladies, chasteberry doesn't work immediately. It takes, I tell people, it takes a couple of cycles to kick in, or maybe even a couple of months. But once you really get it, it starts working. You don't realize how amazing chasteberry is working until you stop it. Mm-hmm. And then, especially during perimenopause, when women are irritable, PMS, and they've got a lot, and it also helps with your libido, or my patients say it does. Yeah, I'm a big fan of chasteberry. Absolutely. Yep. Okay, let's see if we have another. Oh, well, here we go. We just have a love fest right here. She's the best doctor in the world. Such an honor to have worked with her. My very first nursing job.
Hey, baby, love you too.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we'll get some more questions in here. Oh, let's see here. Oh, here we go. I'm on a chemo. Okay, I'm on a chemo drug and a breast cancer survivor. It causes me not to sleep, bone and joint pain, etc. Menopause, mood swings. I eat well, but what else could I do?
Yes. So Lisa, very good question, because women who suffer with breast cancer obviously cannot take the hormones. The thing is, there's so much you can do to help, is if you balance that stress hormone, for one thing. And there are ways to manage stress, again, even without any herbs. Meditation, gratitude, journaling, just taking a deep breath. We don't have time to stop and take a deep breath. So stress management can be huge, to even help with hot flashes during this time, especially if you have breast cancer and cannot take some of the things that are available. The second thing is, the vaginal dryness and those types of symptoms can be really severe. And one way that you can help it is something which is non-toxic. Just vitamin E oil is really good and has no hormones. You want to make sure that it is something called the mixed tocopherols, and it's a clean, organic sourced one. And that's actually very, very good for vaginal dryness. But also things like magnesium, if you are deficient, you can get it from foods like vegetables and fruits. But most of us, when we measure our levels, because our soil is depleted, we are very, very low in our minerals like magnesium. And magnesium itself has at least 200 functions in your body. And just taking it at night can help you sleep better, relax better. It can help with pain. But you mentioned bone health. It's really good for bone health. You don't need to be popping those calcium pills, because they can actually harden your arteries in menopause. Instead, when you get the kind of calcium that comes from real food, whether it's broccoli and spinach and almond milk and things like that, that is more than adequate, along with things like vitamin D. I cannot stress like two of my favorite, other than theanine and chasteberry, I would say, are vitamin D and magnesium.
Yep.
It's like people reach for Tylenols and Advils in their medicine cabinet. I say it's magnesium that you should reach for. Always have it handy, because and there are many kinds of magnesium available, but you do want to get something that's absorbed well. So I do not recommend getting magnesium oxide, which is the most common one found over the counter, but make sure it's something known as chelated magnesium that is going to be much, much better absorbed. And it is good for sleep, brain fog. It's good for stress management. It's good for palpitations. It's good for bone health, aches and pains, and as a muscle relaxer. It even relaxes the walls of your blood vessels.
Yeah.
It's like a calcium channel blocker for blood pressure, but it's good for bowels. So unless you're having diarrhea or kidney disease, I recommend magnesium.
Me too. That's actually what I wrote down when she asked the question. I wrote magnesium down. So, and because I think it's one of the best, it's one of my top four: magnesium, D3, probiotic. Most people need a probiotic initially, and a really good multivitamin. I think one that works and really doesn't, you don't just scoop out your bacteria, your multivitamin. But yeah, so good about magnesium right there. And then and so I'm very appreciative of what she said about calcium supplements. One of my really great friends texted me just yesterday, said, Dani, what calcium do I need to buy? And I don't think Holly's 50 yet. And I said, you don't need to buy I texted her back real fast, said, you don't need to buy calcium. Buy a really good vitamin K27, and K27 will help pull calcium out of the arteries and lay it down on the bones and make those bones stronger. K27 is the #1 treatment in Japan for osteoporosis and osteopenia. I mean, and plus many things, diabetes and cancer, cardiovascular disease. Calcium is I don't even sell calcium in my supplement store. Now there's a vitamin C that has a little bit of calcium, magnesium in it, but I don't sell calcium by itself.
Yeah. The only calcium which is good for your bone is the calcium hydroxyapatite, which actually comes from foods like broccoli.
You bet. You bet. Okay. So, look here, Christina, if you've had a hysterectomy, yes. My one of my very best friends had a hysterectomy at 28. Well, she had endometriosis. She had horrible fibroids, and she's been well managed ever since. And she's in her 40s now, getting ready to have a birthday, and well managed ever since. But that is very unusual.
Yes,
to be managed well. So, what do you do when these people have a hysterectomy and they don't have any risk factors, right? So they're
So first of all, one of the biggest mistakes, unfortunately, made in conventional medicine in a woman who has had hysterectomy is to give them only estrogen. Because yes, there's no uterus to protect from cancer, but what about the breast tissue? So unopposed estrogen and that to synthetic estrogen from the horse piss, like Premarin, is very risky in terms of risk for breast cancer. So you really need, for hormone replacement, to get estrogen as well as progesterone in order to protect the breast tissue, the brain, the bones, the skin, your heart, all of that, because women are at a much higher risk for heart disease after menopause, usually in their 60s, because the effect of hormones, the protection of the hormones is lost.
That's right.
Definitely you want to consider bioidentical hormone therapy, which is customized to you and compounded. For example, prometrium is a bioidentical progesterone. The only problem with it is it's only comes in fixed doses, and it's made in peanut oil, which is GMO, and that's why I prefer the compounded one. And now, as far as natural things without the even use of bioidentical hormones, I mentioned earlier the chasteberry to help the progestogen effects. But for the estrogen effects, there's maca, there's things like the ashwagandha, just to help the stress hormones. But also, of course, you've heard of black cohosh and herbs of that nature, which can help somewhat, may not help everybody, to some extent with the symptoms of hot flashes. Evening primrose oil is
Yes.
really good, especially if you have breast cysts and breast tenderness. It helps with that, and you can even rub it over the breast tissue, which helps with that. I like to measure iodine too, because iodine is so good for breast health to prevent breast cancer, and we can easily become deficient just because our municipal water has added chlorides and fluorides, which can displace the halogens like iodine, which are needed for your thyroid, but also for your breast health. So definitely measure the levels, and then get with a doctor or a provider who can do bioidentical hormones, which are tailor-made to your labs, your symptoms, and your body makeup.
That's exactly right. And when you were talking a little bit about breast tenderness and evening primrose and things, I use a fair amount of calcium D-glucarate sometimes when women are having a
Yes.
whole lot of estrogen dominance, and and I'll put them through several months of using some calcium D-glucarate. I use a medical food called Axis Endo from Metagenics. I don't know if you know that one or not, but it's the best and it's only for 2 weeks. It's the best medical food I've ever found for recirculating hormones, estrogen, through the liver and out the body, and it's absolutely fantastic. But well, so we're
CDG
talking
is one of my favorites too,
what?
and I love CDG as well.
Oh, you bet, yeah, and it works. It's got a lot of calcium D-glucarate in the Axis Endo. So let's talk a little bit about endocrine disruptors, because you were kind of going down that path a little bit there, and I'm always fascinated with endocrine disruptors, and I don't think women realize what all is an endocrine disruptor and what it does to your endocrine system, which your sex hormones are part of your endocrine system.
Exactly.
Ladies out there, yeah. What do you tell your patients? Yeah, about endocrine disruptors.
So what are first of all endocrine disruptors? So these are also known as xenoestrogens. So these come from outside your body, from your environment into the body. They can come through your mouth, through your skin mainly, but you can also inhale it. And so these are toxins that actually structurally are very, very similar to your own hormones like estrogen, and they can occupy the same receptors as your estrogen, and then lead to obesity, but also risk of breast cancer, because the breast itself is fatty tissue, and it can have an affinity for these endocrine disruptors. So what are some of these endocrine disruptors, and how can we be exposed to them? So simple things like drinking from plastic water bottles, even though we may say BPA free, there are other bisphenols that may be named slightly differently that may have leached into your water, because that came from a truck or a warehouse that was probably at a high temperature, especially during the summer months, even if you put that water in your refrigerator.
That's right.
It's better to drink filtered water, first of all, because your municipal water does not filter out some of those hormones like the birth control pills that have been peed out into the water system. It does not filter out heavy metals. And so you want to get a double osmosis water filter.
Yes.
You also want to drink in a stainless steel or glass water bottle, including for your kids. And
Yes.
things like even the slip they give you as a receipt is coated with BPA, so you
Yep.
can request an emailed copy of your receipt the next
Yes.
time you go shopping, and it's so much easier to then make returns. You don't have to hunt for it or store it in a shoebox. And things like makeup, deodorants, shampoos, soaps, cleaning agents, laundry detergents, they can be full of endocrine disruptors. And uh, you can, I say, put on your skin what you're willing to put on your mouth, because your skin is the largest organ. And they say the average American woman, by the time she steps out of her house with her full makeup on, she may have close to 40 to 50 different toxins sitting right on her skin. And that's directly absorbed into your bloodstream, your lymphatics. So be careful about what you're putting in your environment. And our homes are more toxic than the outside. So, leaving your shoes outside because they have the tar, which has heavy metals, using an air purifier if you suspect, off gassing from mattresses, and fire
Okay.
retardants that they put even in baby clothes and baby mattresses. So,
Mhm.
just being more aware, more educated, can help you change your environment one step at a time. Makeup is huge.
Oh, makeup is huge. And I actually have 2 hours of this. For those of you that are new followers, I have 2 hours of safe swaps for your makeup and your cleaning supplies and your lotions and your hair color and your lipstick, all of that. Candles. Candles are a big
Oh,
deal.
yes.
Candles put off, you may buy a soy candle, but if you're buying GMO soy, GMO soy candles with toxins in it, and it's amazing. But I have 2 hours of this Sunday night service on our YouTube channel, so I will actually put the link up here. I can do that. Put the link up here for you all, and I have 2 hours, 3 hours on electromagnetic fields disrupting in your bedroom and your home. Your bedroom has got to be a sanctuary, right?
Yes.
And so that cell phone right here disrupts. If you're sleeping with that phone near your head of your bed, near your bed, right? So distance is your friend here. So this is a huge disruptor as well. That's fantastic. And people don't realize, when they buy this laundry detergent, I used this one from Costco for years, Ecos,
Yes.
thinking it was clean. And when Mary came on here, it had like 4 of the top endocrine disruptors in it that are banned in Europe. Mrs. Meyer's Clean Day, 100% greenwashing. It's really, we've been bamboozled, and it takes. And ladies, I don't want you all to get overwhelmed, because I've never talked to Dr. Sultan before like this. I really didn't know her thoughts on all this. She is preaching the exact same things that I have taught for 10 years. And you're just saying them a little bit differently, but the exact same thing about the diet and the sleep and the exercise and the pooping and decreasing stress and cultivating community we haven't talked about yet, but that's a big piece of it.
Oh, yes.
It's not one size fits all, and you can't just do all of this. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater and go. You can't clean your kitchen out 100% right now. But I tell patients this every day: when you run out of something, replace it with something cleaner. And it takes work, and it takes knowledge, and it takes community and reaching out. And those receipts, Bambi, it's my daughter worked at Whole Foods for 2.5 years. And even though they are supposedly have clean receipts, no, to make a bottle, to make something non-BPA plastic, they got to use something else to do that. So, yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, good. Okay, keep talking.
And mattresses are huge and they
Oh,
are a big investment. So definitely do your research before you buy a new mattress, because there's a lot of off gassing that happens in traditional mattresses because they have fire retardants in them.
you bet they do. I just did 35 minutes on Instagram on this one with a local company here. Do you know there's only two mattress companies? I learned this, that are GOTS certified, GOTS. That's the highest certification you can get for a mattress. There's only two. That's Avocado Mattress
Yes.
and Naturpedic, Naturpedic. Those are the only two that are GOTS. Now you've got other mattresses, Purple and all that. They are not
No.
the top of the line certified. Yeah. And the baby mattress, I owned a maternity store for 11 years. I sold baby furniture for 11 years. I sold the top of the line mattress 20 something years ago, Colgate mattress. I am horrified to think of the toxins that are in that baby mattress. Guys, if you all don't learn anything tonight, if you have babies or grandbabies coming or your friends, you make sure that baby's mattress is organic, because they spend 18, 20 hours of their time, of their day on a mattress as a newborn baby.
Wow. Yeah. See, I grew up in India. We only had cotton mattresses there, so I had no clue till recently. I got my daughter an avocado mattress. She was ready to get a new one.
Yeah. I have an avocado mattress and I have a Naturpedic mattress. I have one of each, and two different rooms, and they're not cheap. But man, I know now that, I just, it's, new car. I mean, we could talk all about this. Your furniture's off gassing. I learned a whole lot this past week from a patient of mine who works for a big furniture company, and the foam is nothing but a chemical. It's only a chemical. Foam is a chemical, and we're having a shortage of it right now because of COVID. But every couch we sit on, every chair we sit on, the cars that have foam, that's all off gassing on us. And it's toxic chemicals. Yes. Okay. Let's keep talking because this is fascinating.
Yeah. And so some of the other things, when we talked about your genes not being your destiny, because my family has that estrogen dominant gene. So what are some things that we can do to overcome this? So apart from getting it tested, and testing again can be complicated and expensive. So things like eating your greens has natural folate. Do not take a multivitamin which has folic acid. You may be actually doing yourself more harm. So if you have a gene called MTFHR, you are not methylating your folate. So it's but in nature it's bountiful in the dark greens.
Yes.
B12. I mean, all the American diet has more than enough B12, but a lot of us are not absorbing it. And B12 is a unique vitamin, like it is absorbed by special cells in your stomach lining. And those cells are attacked by your own immune system in a lot of cases if you have any autoimmune issues. And so it's there in the diet, but you're not absorbing it. Or if you have this gene called MTRR, you may not be converting it into the methylated form. And so you don't want to take a plain B12 vitamin, you want to take a methyl B12. But there are other B vitamins that have to be activated, like B6 becomes the P5P or pyridoxal 5-phosphate, and those are needed for this estrogen breakdown and metabolism in your body, that some of us may have a slow gene called the COMT gene. And so what happens is we can support those pathways if we know that we have an estrogen dominance. And that's why a lot of times these come from eating a rainbow colored diet and eating things that come from the ground. But your good bacteria can actually help you make some of these good B vitamins too. And what are some other things you can do to help this estrogen dominance? So I love my tea, like my green tea. So green tea and ginger and onions and garlic and herbs and spices and exercising and movement and things like the grapeseed extract, the broccoli, the CDG extract that comes from broccoli sprouts, and sulforaphanes are so powerful in overcoming estrogen dominance, but later in menopause, preventing breast cancer. So nature is just so bountiful, and eating foods that nourish you and heal you can really even help balance your hormones.
That's exactly correct. I mean, and God gave us everything we need. Nature is everything we need, right, to fix these things. And that is right, Vicki. You are so right about this. And so my answer to that is you start very slow, very low. Just one thing. If you could change one thing, just change your diet. And you don't have to spend a lot of money to change your diet, right? We have the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So you can certainly don't have to buy all organic. You don't. And but the top 12 on the Dirty Dozen, I would highly recommend buying that organic if possible. But you just have to start real slow. And once you start slow and once you start feeling better, then you can do one thing at a time. But it's not cheap. It's not. But you can do things on a budget.
Yes,
you certainly can. And, you don't have to buy that $1,000 mattress. I know that. But just be aware. Be aware of everything you buy. Educate yourself. I mean, I think the more you're educated, the better choices that you'll make, even if they're baby choices, right? Yes. Just little choices, just changing your laundry detergent, right? It's not that expensive.
Soda and essential oils, which
you bet
to pay a whole lot.
You bet. Okay, so somebody asked about osteopenia, and I can't find it right now. What are your big takeaways for osteopenia? So I actually have osteopenia. I'm 55. I have osteopenia. I don't have osteoporosis. I'm getting ready to have a bone density scan here in a little bit. What are your recommendations for bone density?
Yeah. So first of all, osteopenia and osteoporosis sometimes can actually be an autoimmune manifestation, because if you're only 50 and 55, you just suppose became menopausal. How come your bones are thinned out suddenly? So it's almost like these baby bone cells that make new bone tissue are being attacked by your own immune system. So if someone was 95 years old and had thinned out bones without the supporting hormones, that would be expected. But in your 50s and 60s, that's something to consider. So
that's right.
Again, when you help inflammation, you help your bones. So what are some things that you can do to help your bones? Definitely get out in the sun, get out in nature, exercise. These are free, simple, cheap, easy things to do, because vitamin D and the K2 is a fat-soluble vitamin, which comes with your vitamin D, which is easily absorbed and has many benefits. But again, it's through your diet, in eating foods that are rich not only in the natural calcium, but what lends strength to your bones is actually collagen. So instead of taking these drugs that may deposit more calcium, almost like chalk, onto your bones, there have been, osteonecrosis of the jaw with Fosamax-like drugs. They can cause atypical hip fractures with these drugs. And so what you can do is also take things which are rich in vitamin C or bone broth. These can really strengthen your bone. It's like steel mesh wires that will not break. So it is that inner collagen structure of your bone that leads real strength to the bone and prevents it from breaking. So I tell women to take bone broth. You don't have to buy a collagen supplement to increase the strength. So exercise, especially weight bearing exercise, Hormones definitely help, and that's why I recommend bioidentical hormones, and I have seen it make a shift. There are certain minerals, like other than the vitamin D itself, like magnesium, strontium is a micro nutrient that is needed to help bone health. And again, we want to make sure that we are not doing things that actively take away your bone, and
Right.
from long periods of inactivity, or when suppose you had a fracture and you were non-weight bearing, you can see it visibly when your cast comes off, how shrunken your muscles are from
Right.
distance. So definitely that helps to build back your bone strength. But also I find that if there is any inflammation working against you, then that can be associated with osteopenia and osteoporosis. And when you take away that, for example, yeast infections or unfriendly bacteria in the gut, when you eat foods that support a good, healthy microbiome, it even helps with your bone health, along with helping to support your hormone health. And in women with breast cancer who cannot take hormones, I have a few supplements that I recommend that are specifically to support bone health, which are more like a combination of the things that I mentioned. Like, you don't want the calcium carbonate, you want the things like the calcium hydroxyapatite, the magnesium, the strontium, the vitamin D with K2, and then, of course, eating a diet which is rich in minerals and collagen and vitamin C, because they will lend strength to your bones. So really what helps your hair, skin, and nails, like even biotin, actually is good for your bones as well. And the B vitamins help as well.
That's right. And also stop all sodas. Sodas
Oh,
will
yes.
pull
They will
calcium
dissolve
out of the
your
bones.
teeth enamel and your bones.
You bet. You bet. So, okay. How can I help my 9-year-old with horrible bone density from past cancer treatments? Well, Debbie, no, who said that? Christina, exactly everything she just said is exactly what I would do to help my 9-year-old with that. I know that has to be tough. Yes, weight bearing exercise. You're right about that. Bone on bone. I mean, yoga, do some planks, do some push-ups, just get in the floor and do a 30,
You don't
30
need a
day
gym.
plank challenge,
Yes.
30-second planks, I mean, simple as that. I mean, it really is, and it doesn't cost you any money to do a plank.
And
Suck
that's
that
how,
gut in.
yeah, astronauts, develop thinning of the bones because there's no gravity in
Yeah,
space.
that's exactly right. So, okay, everything she said: eat well, sleep well, move well, poop well, decrease stress, have community. You got to laugh. You have to have fun. You have to cultivate your community. It's all a piece of emotional, spiritual, mental, physical, sexual health, and a lot of women, I mean, menopause, and we were talking about this earlier before we went on. Christiane Northrup is one of my all-time favorites, and she wrote this big book, The Wisdom of Menopause. And if you haven't read this book, it's a fabulous book. She was way ahead of her time, not really, but she was way ahead of her time. But she said one time at a conference I was at in Chicago, and listened to her, perimenopause and menopause is a season that many women never get the privilege and the honor to experience. This is a rite of passage denied by many. Either they died before, or something happened, they had cancer, they died. They never got to experience this season that is a privilege and an honor to go through. We need to embrace it. We need to, not that you have to say, thank you, Lord, for the hot flashes. I mean, I'm not saying that, but just know that it's a season. And guess what? Every season ends. Every season ends. And that's when you get to the other side of menopause, which I'm at now, and I'm hormonally balanced. I have my bioidentical hormones and all. It is so freeing and so incredible, but it can be a rocky journey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I spent 2 years having hot flashes and I was still balanced out, but I didn't stop having a period for about 1.5 years when it started going crazy. And that's all normal. It is normal. It's normal to have a period one day and not have one for a few months and then have two in 1 month. These are all things that I think women think something's wrong with them, and there's nothing wrong with them. It's your natural cycle, right? How do women in India embrace menopause? And we're almost at an hour, but how do they embrace menopause? Do they do it differently than here in the States?
I mean, they use a lot of herbs and Ayurvedic, and I would say one of my top Indian favorites is ashwagandha,
Oh,
just because.
yes.
But also there is, I love Shilajit because it actually helps with sex drive. And
What?
Shilajit, uh,
How do you spell it?
Shilagit. So this is from the Himalayas, and it's in both men and women. It's an herb that helps with sex drive, and it's. I would almost call it the Viagra for women.
Viagra for women. I got to check that out. We're doubling the size of our supplement store actually next week, and I'm gonna. Who would make that? Do you know here? And do you have a brand you like?
Yeah, I use a brand called Gyneca, but it's actually made by a compounding pharmacy. They are APS in Florida, and they work with a company that makes it for them. But it's called, for the men, it's Andreca, and for the women, it's Gyneca.
Okay, well that makes sense. Androgen and guy. Okay. So in India they embrace it a little differently, and they use a lot of herbs and a lot of Ayurvedic medicine.
Community, like you said, because when you're lonely, like especially with the pandemic, we have not been able to see our friends. We've not been able to do hugs, and even with family, it's been stressful. And so having that community, because you can share your experiences, you're not in this alone, and having that connection and those relationships, that itself is the laughter, the spirit of being in it together, that can reduce your stress levels to half. And so imagine if you couldn't share these things with your friends and family and loved ones.
I know. Isn't that something? One thing I was going to say, do you have anything else you want to say before I'm going to put your website up here for people to take a picture of, and there we go, right there. Do you have anything else to say?
I would just say self-love. Women are the harshest on their own selves. We are so busy taking care of everything else and everyone else, which is a privilege in itself, but we beat ourselves up. But it doesn't have to be that. Give yourself some grace, give yourself some self-love. Take a short period of time. It can be just 10 minutes of your day to do some act of self-love and self-kindness, and your body will thank you for that.
You bet. I mean, just taking your shoes off, putting your feet to the earth and your face to the sun, just a few minutes outside at lunch, it's unbelievable how much better you feel when you come back in. And if you could do that in the morning and in the evening, being outside in the morning sets you up for a good day. And then in the evening, it sets you up for a good evening. It's just the natural circadian rhythm. And give yourself some grace, ladies. Give yourself some grace. And we are technically not the head of the household if in fact we're married, right? But you are the moral compass of the household. You set the tone for the household. And when you are stressed, when you are lonely, when you are angry and bitter and all the things that we go through because we're so stressed, the whole family feels that, and you set the tone. And I didn't really realize that when I was a single mom, or I'm still a single mom, but raising my kids, you know, and I was yelling and screaming and carrying on and then going through perimenopause and menopause. I didn't realize I was really doing some damage there by just the tone that I was setting. Give yourself some grace. There is a reason, ladies, that we are asked to put our oxygen mask on first when the airplane is going down. It's not so that you can save everybody on that airplane. It's because you are worthy to be the one also who gets off that airplane. And when you are 100% and you put your oxygen mask on and you do the things that Dr. Sultan recommended tonight, then you are 100%, and it's a trickle down effect. The rest of the family is better as well, but you do it because you are worthy. You're worthy to be 100%. And we weren't born sick, and we weren't born stressed out most of the time, and we weren't born depressed, and we weren't born with anxiety. We turn those things on, and we just take it all on. And I'm so grateful that there are providers like you out there that realize this. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm just telling you, if you have a provider who doesn't listen to you, if you have a provider who doesn't know these things that Dr. Sultan knows and that I've been blessed to learn the last 10 years, then you find another provider to help you with your journey. Okay. Or you go to Alabama, or you come see me. I mean, you find someone, because we work for you, and you are so important that you deserve to be treated with respect, and you deserve to be optimal. Now you have to put your part in, right? I mean, this is hard work. You have to make the changes. Hope is not a strategy. You got to have a strategy, but you need somebody like Dr. Sultan in your life. And I'm so grateful for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. So grateful and love you all. And thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure. And love yourself, because when you are feeling better, you as a woman, the whole entire world, the whole family does better.
That's correct.
And you have the power. You know, we may be healers, but we're not. Your body is the healer. So give your body the loving support that it needs, and it can do miracles. And you know, I do believe in miracles. And so thank you, and have a blessed evening. So good to be here. Have a wonderful weekend. Get out in nature.
Yes, that's exactly right, guys. And before you get off here, next Sunday night, not tomorrow night, but next Sunday night, is Dr. Terry Walls is going to be on here with me. I am so excited to have Dr. Terry Walls. And for those of you that don't know her, look her up, the Walls Protocol. She had MS, and she was in a wheelchair for years. She's a medical doctor, and she 100% reversed her autoimmune disease by diet and exercise and things. And so Dr. Terry Walls will be on here tomorrow night. Those of you that didn't know that Jackson ran the 4x4x48 David Goggins challenge last weekend. This time last weekend, he had just finished his, 36 mile or something for suicide prevention. And and Lee Thornton was there. Lee Thornton's on here right now. And so those of you that did not get a chance to see the video that we put together, it's on our Instagram actually, and it was unbelievable. He raised over $15,000 for suicide prevention, and it's an epidemic. So you can still donate. I'll put the link up here. 100% of the money goes to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and I couldn't believe it. He ran 48 miles. So I was so grateful for all of you that donated and helped. And Lee was here working on him, doing PEMF therapy and treatment on him. So I'm very grateful for that. But guys, listen, those of you that are interested in menopause and perimenopause, Dr. Sultan has a great website, which I put up there. And you do classes, and you have a great Facebook page.
Thank you.
Yes, check her Facebook page out and check her website out. And then on our YouTube channel, Dr. Berkson had a whole hour talking about estrogen, the vindication of using estrogen. And it was a brilliant hour. So that's on our YouTube channel. So we've got you covered, guys. And we appreciate you. And thank you so, so much for being on here tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, Denise.
Thank you.
Love you.
That went by in a hurry. Wow.